Alright everyone, I want to talk about the Zinger here. Couple of things. One, I think I showed you the exhaust pipes. I need a little bit more round of seam filling. Then I've got to sand down these pipes and make them perfectly smooth. So they're going to get a treatment, you know, the 600, 1200, 2400 treatment until they're perfectly smooth. Because I want to chrome them with some Alclad paints. And they're just not going to look right unless I do that. So they need another round of Mr. Surfacer. Here's the real reason for our video right now. The trailer. Okay. It came out fairly well with the primer coat on this side. I can see where I did a little bit of sanding here and there. But it's not showing that well. My problem is this side. Okay. Yep, right there you can see it. I gotta figure out how to get rid of that mold mark. It looks like it's just a crease where something pushed down on this a little too hard right after it came out of the mold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with the Mr. Surfacer. We're going to try that. We're going to see what happens if I do that. I'm going to tape it first. No, I'm not going to tape it. I have good enough control with the Mr. Surfacer and a paintbrush. I'm just going to hit it with the paintbrush. And get a good magnifying glass, hit it, then lightly sand it. My big worry is these raised rivet details. If I mess that up, this is pretty much done for. So we'll see what we can do on that. It's only apparent from certain angles, but it is apparent. And if I chrome that, that's just going to stand out. Now I kind of want to chrome this trailer. I could paint it gray. What I want to do would work gray, an aluminum color, because you see a lot of these things aluminum, but this is a show truck. I mean, it's got lots of big chrome pieces on it. So the trailer should be chromed as well. So let me get snapping on this. I'll let you know what my results are. If they don't come out real good, she's not going to get chromed. She'll get gray painted, aluminum colored. I got plenty of aluminum paint. So that's not a problem at all. So let me get going. See you guys in a bit. Alright, been working on the trailer for the Super Zinger. Alright, remember we had some bad marks on it. It wasn't this side that had the bad marks. It was this side. And I'm going to use the video camera. I'm going to see, ooh, I can still see it in a little bit. But it's smoothed out real well. I'm trying to do a good zoom in, and the camera's saying no. Still see it in the camera. I can't see it with my naked eye. And this is one of the reasons why I'm coming to the video. But it is nowhere near as apparent as it used to. I just need to do some more work on it. The tricky part is trying to remove that diagonal mark across all the rivets and keep the rivets intact. That's a tricky part to this. I can't feel that thing with my fingers. So I think I'm just going to go throw some primer on it and see if it comes through. That's what I'm going to do. Let's go throw some primer on her and see what happens. Comes through the primer, then I know I got to work it some more. Doesn't come through the primer, I know I got it. Back in a little while, let you see what I've done. Okay, we're doing an update on the Zinger. I got out the Super Clean and stripped some chrome off some parts. This cage is one of them. I really didn't want to do that. Last night I glued it together without that. And it was chromed. The seam runs straight down the center of this part right here. And when I pulled the clamps off, you couldn't really see the seam. It fit that well together that that seam kind of vanished. And it's going to have a big old scoop on top of it anyhow. I took that part. This part fits over this part right here. You can just slide them in there. And when I slid it in there, the seams reappeared. There was just enough pressure to cause those seams to reappear. And by the way, the fit of this over this is horrible. I did a lot of filing and sanding work on this guy to get him to fit over this with little stress, but there was still enough for those seams to reappear. So I stripped the chrome and got some Mr. Surfacer on there to clear up the seam problem. A little bit of sanding on that and there won't be a seam anymore. It's the way it works. Okay? Now these are the two parts that go on the ends of this piece that they glue on here like this. They were chromed. I stripped the chrome off them with the Super Clean as well, because when I removed them from the sprue, there was definitely some non-chromed attachment points incredibly visible on these parts. So I stripped them. They're going to get the Alclad treatment as well as this cage once this cage is seam filled. Alright. Now, exhaust pipes. You guys saw this earlier. I'm almost done with the seam filling on these. This is their third round of Mr. Surfacer. I'm using it primarily as my seam filler on this model because there isn't much in the way of seams. Okay? There just isn't. And it works well for tiny little seams. It doesn't work well for big seams. You need putty for that. But the seams on this are small, they're delicate, and I want to Alclad this as well. So I need to have very little imperfections in it, and I just didn't feel like dealing with putty on it when the Mr. Surfacer is going to work, and I have the time to do that. Speaking of fit issues, this cage goes around this part, and it will slide on there like this. Okay? And it's not producing much stress in the part right now. It did at first. I spent an awful lot of time getting this part to fit right. This kit has a lot of fit issues if you guys haven't figured that out yet. It's because it's from the 70s. In the 70s, they didn't care about fit issues. People bought the kits anyhow. And they built them, and they didn't really care what they looked like. These days, people won't buy them if they got bad fit issues. I mean, some do, because this is a nostalgia thing with this one. Because I remember building this one when I was younger, like 10 or 15. Okay? But, again, you guys don't buy kits with bad fit issues these days. If you hear it's got bad fit issues, you run away and you don't buy it. So you guys are getting a bit spoiled with that. You should try one of these sometimes. They're kind of fun. Because I've built so many of them, they don't faze me anymore. I can build what I want with some of the older kits, and I don't even flinch at buying an older kit. And I know how to correct all these bad fit issues because I've been dealing with it for a while. Okay? Exhaust pipes, already discussed that. I think that's it for the Super Zinger right now. Yeah, the only sprue that have parts left is the chrome parts. These parts right here. These guys I shouldn't have to strip the chrome off of. Not one of these parts should I have to strip the chrome off of. Okay? I'm going to use them as they are. I already see some potential problems there, but if I'm creative, it'll take care of itself. Alright? The trailer has primer on it drying. The cab I painted and found a cat hair embedded in the paint. Tried to remove it. No bueno. So I'm stripping the paint off and starting over. Not a big issue because there was no real issues with the cab to begin with. I used an enamel paint, a tester's enamel paint on it. So, super silly putty. Silly putty is used for masking amongst other things. I used a tester's paint on it and it worked really well. But it's an enamel, and those enamels, once they cure, are hard. Rock hard. Don't like coming off. So it's going to take a day or two for that to come off. So it's going to slow me down a little bit. But by then I'll have most of these parts done. So it really won't matter. It'll be just slap her together, put the decals on it, and I'm done. Okay? So it can take some time. These things, when I get the Alclad going, is going to take some time too. It's going to take 2 or 3 days to Alclad everything. Because I like to put a coat of paint down, wait a day, put a coat of paint down, wait a day, put a coat of paint down, wait a day. These Alclads are going to take some time. I got to put some primer on it, let the primer cure. Then I got to put a black coat on it, let that cure. Then a clear coat, let that cure. Then I can put the Alclad on, let that cure, clear coat, and I'm done. So there's 4 or 5 steps in that process. I'll videotape the entire process so everyone can see that with the trailer and these other parts. That's pretty much it with the Super Zinger for right now. I will be back as soon as I have something worth videotaping. Probably tomorrow, because this thing's going together quickly. Talk to you later. Well, everyone, we're talking about the Super Zinger here. The Zinger Super Semi. There. Last segment I talked about the cab. I painted it, found a cat hair in it. Cat hair was back here. And on close examination, you'll never see that cat hair. So I stripped the paint off this cab for nothing. Now let's talk about the paint I'm using. I'm using Testors Enamel Spray Can, Rattle Bomb, Rattle Can, Spray Bomb, whatever you want to call that. And I'm not used to that, and it was more than just the cat hair for taking this off. I got a little too much paint back here. And then I made the mistake of dipping a Q-tip in lacquer thinner, trying to remove the little extra paint, and it did hurt the plastic, but what happened is the color binded to the plastic a little bit. So there's some discoloration in here. Now, that enamel's some pretty tough stuff. This soaked in super clean overnight, then I hit it with a toothbrush, and you can see everything's gone, including the primer. So this is ready for a primer coat. Yeah, it didn't hurt the surface of the plastic, nothing. So it's in my box of parts ready for a primer coat. I got the exhaust pipes done finally. They're ready for a primer coat. So I'm going to be doing a lot of primer painting tonight. All my chrome parts I'm going to chrome are in there. Speaking of chrome parts, here's the trailer. Last time you guys saw that, it had some pretty bad mold marks on it. So let's take a zoom in and see what we got now. Alright, this is the side with the bad mold marks. They're still visible a teeny bit, but I'm probably going to let that go from here, because they're not that visible. So I tilted through the light, you can see it, but flat on the surface you can't. We're going to see what happens when the super clean hits it. Not super clean, the Alclad hits it. Okay, there's going to be decals on here anyhow, and the decals will probably hide this somewhat, because I'm going to decal up the whole side of the trailer. Not completely decal up the whole side of the trailer, but I'm going to decal up most of this side of the trailer anyhow. Some words and some pictures and stuff. I'm going to put some decals on the back too. Okay, so I'm going to chrome it, and the only place it's really going to show the chrome is up here that's unblemished, and here, and those faces are fine. Again, we're going to have decals across here and decals across here. So I'm not too worried about that, and the decals are going to pretty much cover every place where that's going to be anyhow. So this is ready to go. So I got a whole bunch of parts that are ready for primer. Alright, what I'm working on tonight is I'm going to get the seams off these tires, and I'm going to do that by going out in the garage and getting my drill, putting this end in the drill chuck, setting her down on some 320 grit sandpaper, and zzz, until these seams are gone. And then I'm going to retread the tires, and I'll show you how I'm going to retread the tires. I did a practice run on it with one of my industrial grade woodworking tools, and it left some marks on there. I'm not real happy with that. That would make a good tire tread, but it's way too large for what I'm doing, although it is pretty close to the tire tread that is on the tires already. Here, let's do a comparison here. Okay, it's a little close. It's just that this is denser than this. If I did 2 or 3 runs across that thing, I think it would work fine, but I don't like it, so I'm going to try something different. I have an idea in mind. We're going to give it a try on the tires first run. It should be fine. Okay. Worst comes to worst, a car like this would have racing slicks on it anyhow, which wouldn't have any tread. So I can just sand that tread off completely. And that's what I'm thinking of doing anyhow, to be honest with all of you, is just sanding that tread off completely and not putting any tread whatsoever on the ends of these tires. Because again, you would have racing slicks on something like this. You wouldn't really have tread. Okay? I've seen racing slicks. They don't have tread. Nothing whatsoever. So I'll probably just do that with them. Just get rid of the seam completely. And then give them a flat black mixed with a brown coat to give it kind of a rubber color. Because rubber isn't completely black. It's got a teeny bit of brown to it. So I will do that. No white walls on this thing. Not going to happen. Okay? So there you go. That's where I'm at. I'll be back. I'll show you what I do with the tires. You'll get to see it. And we're getting really close to just throwing this thing together. Really close. I got to get the Alclads done, and that's going to take a couple of days. So, back in a bit.